Boys and girls, ladies and gents, welcome back. Glad you made it. It's another social production. We're doing it on Monday, March the 13th, 2023. Where's the time going? Holy smokes. Thank you for joining me again. Once again, if you're brand new to the show, buckle up, buckle down. We have fun around here. We keep it light. We keep it loose as a goose. Where can you find these videos? On Instagram. Follow me there. Subscribe on YouTube for the full-length videos. And check out patreon.com/RobSadri. There it is. And we're here every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Thank you very much for joining me. If you've been a long-time viewer and listener, thank you. Showing all the love and support right back at you. We're doing it. Oh man, what an exciting time to be alive. It's Monday. We're halfway through the... We're getting there, baby. Spring is right around the corner, and right around the corner from there is summertime, and I'm excited for some summertime madness, for some summertime adventures. Let's see where the road takes us. Let's see where this winding path will lead us to. One step at a time, of course. Baby steps, like a little turtle. That's right, ladies and gents, boys and girls. A lot of exciting events are happening in and around the world. We'll get into it. I had a fantastic weekend. Thank you very much. Watched, what's that series? It's a short series on Netflix. Outlast, I believe. If I'm not mistaken, it was produced or directed, if memory serves me right, I want to say Jason Bateman. It was pretty dope, not gonna lie. Basically, I'll give you the gist of it, not gonna give it away. Obviously, it's one of these survival shows. Consists of 8 episodes. They're fighting and at times working together to come out on top and win $1 million. $1 million buckaroos. $1 million can still change lives these days, as much as with the inflation and food prices on the rise and gas and housing being extremely high. Still $1 million, even if split among several people, can still go a long way. It is life-changing money. So it's a survivalist show. I do recommend it because I got into it and I was just like, you know, I came back from my day shift. It was just like, I'm just going to sit back, relax for a little while. And it's in Alaska. And I watched it and I enjoyed the whole thing. It's just that I think, you know, living in Canada, man, living in Toronto, living in relatively anywhere in Canada, it's chilly up here. It's snow right now. It just snowed again, once again, on top of the heavily, we've been getting snow. It's typical here, and I'm looking outside, everything's covered in white and the sun is reflecting off it, and hence the old squintaroo. But I managed to actually find a little, man, I don't splurge, I don't spend anything cray here, and I'm just, you know, saving that budget, looking to make, you know, got bigger plans on my mind. So I don't go out and spend too much money on this, that, or the other knickknacks, if you will. I don't waste money. I try to be, you know, frugal with it, if you will. But I'm always sitting here, and sometimes it's a little bit too bright outside, and I'm resorting to the old squint, and we can squint the whole show, no problem, but it'd be nice not to squint. So I just got these pair of sunglasses, which are not too dark, so that I can, it's my summertime sunglasses, yo, and I got it on a good deal from Amazon. It's mad cheap, and there's probably, I'm not gonna lie, fam, it's probably made in China, and there's some, if I were to like take a guess, there's somebody being heavily underpaid, which is, from a consumer's perspective, like, I'm glad that I can get that for 13 bucks and change with delivery. Dude, 13 bucks and change, let's just call it 14 bucks a pair of sunglasses, made God knows where, with who knows what kind of circumstances, probably the bloodiest of fingertips. But maybe not so, maybe it's just, I don't know, maybe it's like some sort of like fucking conveyor belt system with like the machinery, and it just pops. You know, maybe there's one guy that codes in which kind of style sunglasses are going to be printed or manufactured, and then it's just like conveyor belt, just put out a gajillion of these bad boys and see where, you know. So I got it. I'm hoping that, you know, I'm giving back to the economy, essentially, as little as it is. You know, there's a kid somewhere. Maybe it's not China. Maybe there's not even a kid. Maybe it's a grown woman or a man working in a factory, and I'm paying someone's bills right now, contributing. Sure, it's not much, but like, I don't, you know, it's I'm not gonna pay $1,000 for sunglasses. I'll tell you that much right now. And right now, it's just like a matter of how do we attack this squinting situation. So on Thursday, I believe it should arrive. But that's the thing with delivery too. So like you get something made somewhere else, shipped within days, and then somebody brings it right to your doorstep. We take it for we're so used to it. It didn't take much time. That's the thing. We get so used to things so quickly. This wasn't the norm. This is relatively new when you can just get on the lines, order relatively anything your little heart desires, and bang, boom, right there. A couple of days later, you can even get a same-day delivery if you insist on paying a little bit more for the shipping and handling, and the handling and the shipping, and for the ships and the hands. It takes, you got to pay the hands and pay the ships. I don't know how it all works, but for 13 and change to get a pair of sunglasses from somewhere else in the world delivered here to my door so that I can step it up, just start staring right into the camera and not have my eyes hurt. But that's fine. That's fine. Sunny days are ahead of us. Not to say that they're not here already. It's just what it is. It's exciting. But anyways, I was watching Outlast, and it got me excited because I'm looking at these bad boys and bad gals. There's I believe 16 contestants, and they're it's you get into teams, and at the end it's survival of the fittest, or survival of the meanest, or is it survival of the most who works best in a team, who's able to withstand the conditions and the elements. And also you might be the best player outside, you know what I'm saying, player, you out there playing the games. You be big time play. You're a player. You're playing in the playing games, and you're the best. But sometimes it's just the elements, and I'm not gonna give anything away. But sometimes you're out there in the wilderness. You're out there in the last thing you're supposed to. You're given very limited supplies, and you're supposed to make do and hunt for your food and gather and fish and go back to the essentials. Go back to the meats and potatoes of what it meant to be a human and living in harsh conditions, which at the same rate I'm watching this series, but I'm like looking outside, I'm like, you know what, it's snowing in Alaska, guess where else it's snowing? Right here. So I'm just getting like in my mind, and I'm getting a little cocky here. I'm just like, I can do this. I know I can't, but in my mind I like to be like, yes, if push came to shove, daddy would step out in nature and just tussle with nature. I'll track a couple of moose. I'll look where you're scratching on them timbers, where you leaving your marks, where you shedding your antlers, or is that a squirrel? Is that a squirrel nest? Do I need to wear camo and go sleep with the squirrel in order to be able to like build a bond and have them trust me? And then once I'm in the circle of squirrels and 7 years has gone by and they're like really tight with me, I just like walk around and draw on my shoulder. Boom, what is that? Few of them go missing, free food, no one's the wiser. Why? Because I gathered a little bit of squirrel piss and just rubbed it right here and right there, right here. And I'm just amongst the squirrels, man, and no one's the wiser. So I'm just like preparing mentally for such a day should it arrive. But I don't get fazed by nature. For limited times only. No, there was like legit, like that's the thing. It's so harsh out there in Alaska. It's minus temper, but we're not even talking about like living, in a city if it's cold, we're so lucky. I'm so lucky. I'm so blessed. I'm so grateful. That's the thing. You got a roof over your head. You got food whenever you want it, right at your fingertips. You get shit delivered to you within a couple of days, worth a few dollars, and it's magnificent. These are the things that I enjoy in life, and I watched it. But at the same rate, I'm just like, what would happen if I were to actually, would I be able to engage in the elements? Would I be able to? How long will I be able to last? How long would you think you'd last in Alaska, just dropped off with minimal supplies, with nothing on your back except the clothes that you walked in with, and there are people that are cooperating with you, but at the same rate there's some that might be a hindrance, who knows? And that's where you get to see humanity's potential for both being rising above, saying no to temptation, taking the high road. Is there a way that I can win this game with cheating? You'll be tempted. But would you want to be like, man, I want to win this thing with like the honor and glory of the game. I do it for the love of it. And which route do you take? And at the end of the day, there's $1 million on the line. Who am I to sit here and be like, I wouldn't have done this? or I would have done it this way, unless you're willing to take those steps, unless you're willing to go head to head with a polar bear, or a black bear, or any bear for that matter. Are you willing to go toe to toe? Are you willing to, scavenger? Are you willing to gather? Are you willing to hunt? Are you willing to get naked, fam? Because you never know. You might need to heat up because you're outside and you got wet. And I'm like, man, what if your clothes get wet? What if all your clothes get wet and then you need to like fucking do a little, oh man, I'd be low key if we were to all just like get a little bit extra wet. I'm just saying, like, next series, just a little bit of like, oh man, what all this walking around and hiking in the snow and wetness has got my clothes wet. Oh my, I wonder how we are to warm up in these conditions and surrounded by all the elements of a fire and letting the, let's just everybody, let's just get crazy idea. Let's just everybody take off our clothes and hang it up and let it dry by the old fire. And why don't we all just cuddle? Just team cuddle. I would, I'm not saying I'll advocate for that, but if it were to come up and just looking around everybody, if things are like, I'm just saying, you're out in the elements and there's like, you never know. Let's take it to a next level. Let's remove the element of, oh, there's somebody out there that if you are, it's worst case scenario, emergency, you call somebody and they come and get you and escort you out of the game. Let's take it up a level. Let's take out the safety nets. Next season, nobody's there to, you feel bad, you want to call Jason Bateman and be like, hey Jason, not feeling too well, buddy. I'm just gonna pull up in the, I'm just gonna pull up to the trailer camper that you're executive producing from or directing from. I'm just gonna, just for like 17 to 24 hours, I'm just gonna kick it back. Maybe you and I can chit chat about how we can bring back the Ozark, and he'll be like, how did you even get this number? And I'll be like, aren't we all a big team right here doing it right here, right now, and the Outlast and the Outlasted? And yeah, let's talk a little bit about Ozark, and how about we bring back Ruth? And I'll just be like, I've got this pitch, and he's like, Ruth is dead. And I'm like, but we bring her back. And he's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, aliens. He's like, hanging up. And that's a whole nother story of another time that we could all discuss together. But the point of the matter is, would you be able to survive? With or without the help of Jason Bateman? Let's say he's not there. You can't call him in a camper and be like, hey, I got a little bit of the IBS. I haven't, whatevs, or reverse IBS. It's just working overtime. And both can happen, or none can happen too. So it's a wild world. Do you think you got what it takes to outlast in nature? Are you a survivalist, or are you just somebody who's adventurous and willing to take a risk? Well then, I don't know if they've got a sign-up sheet. I don't even know if there's other seasons. I don't know if there's other locations. For me, to be quite honest with you, it's like, again, I've been, as a Canadian, you're living in the cold all day, every day for at least half the year. So you're somewhat accustomed to the cold temperatures and like having do I need to dig a car out of a ditch? Do I need to start a little whatevs? Do I need to have a little bit of something that, I can just pull over my head? Why? Because it's like raining and snowing and it's freezing rain slug. Because that's what it is. It's the elements. We live in the elements. Do I need to go, trap a couple of animals? Just whatevs. Anything that it takes for you to get from point A to point B. Walk knee deep in snow. It happens to the best of us. If you've lived at one point or another, you walked knee deep in snow, going from wherever to wherever else. So I'm looking at myself, I'm like, but I'd be interested in seeing somebody maybe survive like right in the middle of the desert, fam. Just fucking, sucking on rattlesnakes and drinking your own urine or somebody else's urine. Who knows? Covering your head in some sort of a contraption that resembles maybe a makeshift turban or a couple of do-rags. It's not even a do-rag. It was your t-shirt, but you ripped up the t-shirt. Now it's a do-rag. It's saving your head, but now you're peeling all over your shoulders, your tits. It's bleeding all over the place, which is crazy. But at the same rate, have you got what it's take? It's crazy. But it's just challenge yourself essentially. Stay challenged, my friends. But I know myself, I'm looking at this, and a little bit of it is because I know in the coming months, and as what I've been telling myself is what I'm little by little preparing for. I hope to make a little shuffle in life, if you will, see if I can adjust my location or something of another. It's all baby steps, things that I'm working, but I know down the line, eventually the day will come within the not too distant future where I'm going to have to get out there and kind of have to Make little doohickeys, make things out of, oh, what is this? Uh, is that beef jerky or an old belt? When you're hungry, you're hungry. You know what I'm saying? What's a shoe made of? If it's some sort of active wear, probably rubber. So, will you be mocked for wearing, old man leathery rubber, leather shoes? Maybe. But at the end of the day, would you rather be mocked for wearing old man leather shoes, or not being mocked because you're wearing some sort of Rubbermaid activewear with whatever brand on it, which is like hip and cool? But like when it comes down to chewing on shoes because you got nothing else to chew on because you're in the middle of the road somewhere and God knows where I'm going. I've looked at the map and I've looked at the destination that I'd like to reach, and we're going over water. I'm going to be going over water. I might have to put the car in a ship at one point and cross with a ferry, fam. Like, crazy. Or I might have to be like you never know, the captain of the ferry might fucking get there might be some piracy involved. There might be some pirates that'll just come on the ferry with like live scurvy and breathe on us heavily, and intimidation, mind games, psychological mind games, a psychological warfare. They might take over the ship, and I need this ferry to get my car and myself to across the border at one point or another, maybe. But there's different routes. I could take one without the ferry, but then again, you got road bandits. And that's the thing of the past, like that you had road bandits. We don't have road bandits anymore, but we could. I did read recently that an 18-year-old female was on a dating app or something, and apparently she's telling guys to meet her somewhere, and she's juking them at shanks, dude. Shank point right there to the ribs. Give me all your money, give me all your stuff. 18-year-old female robbing. So of course she's not a road bandit, but I guess she's doing her part to keep the dream alive of banditry and whatnots, and that's what it is. So you hear all sorts of stories. What I'm trying to say is that I don't know and any moment the ferry could be taken over by pirates, maybe Somalian pirates. How do they get there? I don't know. I'm not a ferry expert. I'm not a pirate expert either, but I did always dress up as a kid. I always, cowboy, pirate, fucking give me a cape. I'll be both. Cowboy, pirate, fam. Cowboy, pirate that shit up. So I'm used to it in my mind. And at one point, the captain of this ferry might get juked. Might get just like, he might be under pressure just crumbling. Like a little cake. Like a little fruit cake. Oh, all that beard and gray hair and smoke is just a facade. He's a broken shell of a man inside now, and I'm going to have to take control of this this ferry ship. And it's going to be hard because there's like 8 of them and only one of me. So, I'll do anything. You never know what if it I'll negotiate, fam. Let's parlay before we take a dip in these salty waters. Is it salt water? It could be fresh water. I don't know where it is. It's just somewhere. We got to get from Canada down south. It's a mission. That's what I'm saying. And I'm just watching this survivalist show in Alaska, and I'm like saying things to myself. I'm like, be prepared to have to, negotiate with pirates over ferries or fucking land bandits on horses. Mules? Certainly not camels, not here, but you never know. Maybe somebody's fucking like, new age road bandit with a llama just spitting in your face and robbing you in point blank with cameras, or like some sort of like TikTok dance figure thing. Just, a situation where it's like being broadcasted, because they're also like because everybody's like multitasking, so it might be like a TikToker, a bandit who will like TikTok bandit you whilst doing a dance. And I'm just up for negotiate. I'll do anything, fam. Do we want to go sword to sword? Do we need to go pistol to pistol, cack to cack? Do we need to go? What do I gotta do to get these pirates off this ferry? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, do you guys want to tussle? You want to test this? And by test this, I mean because there's so many of you. Could I just I will, if I need to, I will spit on my hands and I will just give the old crew a good old, a yurkin, if you will. What's wrong with a yurkin if it means everybody's happy endings? That's what I believe in. And if I can get us from A to B in a safe manner, well, Who's the captain of this ship now? This guy just fucking going to town to save lives, dude. Just fucking 8 at a time. Because I want to save lives. And I'll do whatever it takes for me and my very few belongings to get to our destination safely, and alongside everybody else, of course, too. And I'll have to have a little chat with this captain of this boat and see what kind of what kind of ship are we running here? What are you running here? But then I'll have to depart because I got bigger things on my mind, and that is not my concern, not my world. But still, I'm participating, and that's beautiful, ladies and gents. So I'm excited watching survivalist shows, getting in the mindset of just like fucking taking rocks and just fucking smashing it together to make a little fire with my just fucking breathing. Do you spark and blow, or do you suck and blow, or what do you do with the rocks in the there's so many elements. Do you take lighter fluid with you? How much lighter fluid? You don't want to be just like, too much lighter fluid, but I forgot the socks. All of a sudden you're just covered in lighter fluid because you're like, you never know where you're gonna be, and you're gonna have to start a little fire to survive the elements. And what I gotta say, I just aesthetically, I wish we had more the cities. Like when you look back at old images from videos or movies, different parts of towns, maybe depicted in Chicago or New York in the 70s and 80s, you'd had in neighborhoods large garbage cans, round cylindrical garbage cans emptied out, and a fire pit was made, and you saw a bunch of men with thick beards around them, just like hovering and warming up. And aesthetically, although probably not super bueno overall in the grand scheme of things, there was some sort of an element of, hey man, that's kind of I've not lived it, but I respect it. There's something to that. The hobo lifestyle, the lifestyle of just like hopping on trains and tracking those tracks. And I've got fingerless gloves, dude, and I'm willing to just stand back for a few minutes and warm up and just exchange information. What's safe? Where can you stay? Where can't you stay? Should I practice sleeping with one eye open just because you never know when your belongings might go missing in the middle of the night? Should you be shacking up with somebody or not shacking up with somebody? Somebody might just like creep up on you in the middle of the night. So these are all the thoughts that I'm thinking about, and like little by little, of course, one step at a time. We're nowhere near there, but I know eventually one day will come, and again, not so distant future, where things will be shifting, and I don't know what holds out there. I think it's that way. I think I should be heading this. No, actually, I think I should be technically. That is north. No, wait. Yes, that is north. You're north. You're north, and that is south. So technically, everything is that way, right there, into the old abyss, into the old darkness, and from darkness came light, which is if we can figure that one out, that'd be a nice decent dent in the old energy crises. Do we go wind farms, or do we invest in nuclei? Fucking dark matter, that shit, fam. Dark matter, that shit. Dark energy. What is it? I don't even know. But there's something there. Boys and girls, ladies and gents. George Huntington Hartford was the original Epstein. I was just reading an article. George Huntington Hartford. I was reading an article, and this is the thing. When you hear of Epstein and them's, you feel like, oh man. The most of us, at least, you're like, man, this is like, it pops out as just like one event, one thing, and you think of it as just one event, one person, one thing, maybe obviously affiliated with a whole bunch of other people that are the list, but essentially like this type of stuff happens constantly. And George Huntington Hartford II, was in this article, in this story that I read, was the OG Epstein. So this like philanthropist, rich kid, grew up rich. He inherited a shit ton of money from his grandpa that owned a bunch of businesses and whatnot, like big money. All right, at the age of 6, I was reading, I think he was inheriting or making 1.5 million a year. This is, I think, ranging between the 40s, 50s, and 60s is when he was running his little operations and shindigs. He was involved in different things. Philanthropist, kind of known as a figure who'd invest in the arts, invest in this, invest in that, have a multi national conglomerates and businesses under his name, and eventually that most of his businesses and ventures like failed because he wasn't like, he didn't earn the money. He was just like given a ton of money. And most of these situations where you find, not all the time, there's individuals who are given money and then they take that and turn it into something big and wonderful and beautiful. But there's instances where people just come into money, and this, not to say that he wasn't like successful or anything. It was just like he was, you know, he wasn't the guy to be running successful businesses or anything. Long story short, it came down to, at one point he was actually best buds with like Ian Fleming, the guy behind the James Bond novels. And yeah, he had a island, or maybe even a bunch of islands, where they did this whole like Epstein thing way back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, where you gather all sorts of people. You know, you're just a fan of the arts. You're just like, you know, you're providing a space for celebrities, diplomats, politicians, you know, big names in high society to get on this island and have all sorts of like, you know, underage sex with the underage females. He never got caught. He actually died of old age, allegedly broke, but then again, I take that with a pinch of salt from what I read. I would assume maybe he was like rich broke. When they say like, you know, you've heard the term like, you know, MC Hammer broke, but like still probably a millionaire. This guy, filthy rich. Like one of the, at the time, George Huntington Hartford II was amongst one of the richest people on earth, at least on paper. Again, there's unannounced, undisclosed wealth that is belonging to all sorts of princesses and kings and oligarchs that you never hear from, but this is a public figure who was like out there just, you know, befriending Ian Fleming, having a little island on the Bahamas or whatever, running clubs, running businesses, making movies, dating actresses, you know, one and the same, actors, females. And at one point, you know, did the whole underage sex thing with the end. So that was an interesting little thing. And this story was huge. It was actually like, there's so many people connected to it. I think it all came crumbling down because at one point, high-level politician in the UK, a prime minister at the time, which I'm forgetting his name, got caught in the whole scandal, and it was a big thing. Came out in the news, and he had to step down. And so these sort of stories aren't new, which was like, man, I wonder how many more have existed in the past, how many more probably exist now. And it's it's a weird sex island for like underage sex shit, which is like, honestly, if they just kept the underage sex shit out of it, it would have been just like, you know, fine. You want to get people together on an island so they can, you know, run trains. I don't see, if everybody's like consenting adults, I don't see any problem with that. But I think it's just like literally like there's like a legit fine line we're not supposed to cross, and these guys are always like, let's cross it. So they've always existed, and to read this was just like another reminder that yeah, these like Epstein situations are not just anomalies, or they don't just happen. And most often you'll find out that these characters, the Epsteins or the George Huntington Hartford II's, they're somewhat associated to, you know, highbrow society or like the financially elite, and at most times connected to some sort of intelligence services, like, you know, CIA or the FBI or the Mossad or MI5 for whatever, whichever, you know, location or whatever time period. They're always, you know, most likely connected to some sort of intelligence services. So it's like, man, is the government aware? And these are the questions that I like to think about. I'm like, man, where's that fine line between, I guess, like law enforcement and criminal conduct and criminal behaviors going out there and, you know, not just regular prostitution, which I'm a fan of. Like, you know what I mean? As of age, if you want to, you should have the freedom to do whatever you want with your body. That's what I'm saying. Males, females, if you want, if that's your thing. But like underage, fucking like weird shit, that is something that has been, and I'm sure there was probably a guy before, again, we heard of like, you know, and that was probably like, and again, think of all this, like, you know, the way we're consuming information, and like these stories probably have existed for thousands of years in different formats. Like, imagine 250 years ago, you're telling me there wasn't some rich fella who was, you know, gathering people and doing all sorts of weird, like this sort of, I'm so grateful for the times that we actually live in because of all the, you know, these are the advantages of, I guess, you know, the bright sides of technologies, because we come in here and we tickle each other's fucking elbows and shit from afar, but we get to also like get an insight into the not so distant past, so we can like learn in the present future that we are living in and like be like, whoa, that's crazy. And yeah, I wonder how many more of these people have existed, how many people got away. And there's so many weird things out there, just fascinating stories too. Yeah, it's this guy essentially, I believe his island, I believe his, like, it was a cool story, and I'm sure there's more to it than this as well, but he owned clubs, and even I believe one of his islands was actually used for the James Bond movies, if I'm not mistaken. So, and yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I want to say, maybe, don't quote me on this, it was a long article, but check out that name if you're into, like, a story that's similar to the Epstein, but this guy was, again, the OG Epstein. His name, George Huntington Hartford II. And that was a little piece of interesting story that I heard, but I wanted to share with you guys and gals out there. But before man, today's show is going to be exciting. Boys and girls, ladies and gents, we are time to skirt for a second. I know it's a beautiful Monday. I know we're all excited to be here. I know I am. And a lot of things I don't know if you heard over the past weekend what happened, but we did globally have the second largest financial collapse in US history. And I say globally because, like, when it affects the US, you know what it is. It impacts everybody. But the Silicon Valley Bank collapsed over the weekend, and that's what it is, fam. So I don't want you to panic. A large bank has collapsed. This is the biggest collapse since the 2008 market crash, of the 2008 stock market crash in 2008. Second largest one in US history. I don't want you to panic. Your money isn't safe. And banks, fiat money isn't safe. Do not panic. New forms of money like digital currencies, also not safe. Do not panic. Do not panic. At the end of the day, what remains safe, and because the markets, the markets are emotional. I'll tell you that the markets are emotional, fam. If you didn't know, the markets are one day the market could be happy. The next day, the Monday coming after the weekend, the market might not be so happy. It might be a little bit down. It might be a downer of a market. Maybe the market's bipolar. Maybe the market needs to sit down and have a chat with somebody. I don't know, but the market is emotional, and I don't want you to panic. Despite the fact that your money, whether it be in a bank or in some sort of you're dabbling in the stock market, or maybe you're going into the old new digital currencies, which I'm not I don't know anything about anything. I barely know how to tie my shoes. That's why if it was up to me, I'd opt for Velcro, but they're like Velcro ages 5 to 10, and then you gotta wait till 85 plus to bring back Velcro. And I've always said, it's like, why wait and waste a good thing when it's right in front of you? But that's aside the point. The point is, your money's not safe in traditional banking system. Fiat money, not so safe. Digital currencies, we've seen the dips and the risings and the plummeting and the ups and the downs, and people allegedly making a little bit of money, some making allegedly a little bit more than a little. Most people lose a ton of money, or at least a little money, because who knows how these magic tricks work, really. And at the end of the day, you're like, so what are you saying? I'm saying do not panic. Your money isn't safe, whether it's fiat or whether it's some sort of digital currency. What is safe is the financial system overall, in and of itself, is safe. So the banks, relatively speaking, the banks are safe. Will there be a bailout? Not this time, Jack. At least not for the executives. I'll tell you that much. We fool me once, and then if you can just shift the game a little bit, you can continue to fool me with different variants of the game. But that being said, fool me once, we will not bail out the executives. They had plenty of time to sell their stocks weeks in advance, and you've made plenty already, buddy. I don't need to bail you out. So that being said, no, we will not bail out the executives at the banks. Who will we bail out? We're not bailing out anybody. Is there something like the money that's been insured? We'll give it back. I think. I don't know. I don't even know what I'm talking about. The money that's not insured, we'll see. We'll see how much money's left. You're like, how does the bank even go bankrupt? Isn't that the whole? That's why I brought you my money, so that's safe. Because back in the day, you're like, don't hold on to your money. Don't hold on to your money. Because there's thieves and bandits on horses and pew-pews, and they'll rob your guinea bag with a dollar sign on it, and there you go, having to wear a mask and get on a horse and just fucking yippee-ki-yay until you find your money. And now next thing you know, we're in a Mexican standoff for a bag of money and loot. Give me the loot. And those days are long behind us. That being said, that was the whole thing. So you had people that would come rob you, and they're like, let's build banks. And then, before, if the bank was to get robbed, it would get robbed from the outside. You got a couple of men, willing, able, capable men, and maybe a couple of females. You never know how long the mission's gonna go for. You. It's just good to, fucking mix it up a little bit. But you got a few men, you got a couple of horses. You found this little bank at the time in the middle of town square or circle or what have you. At nighttime, you attach a big rope or maybe a couple of ropes to one of the walls of the bank. And what did you do? You attached the other side of the rope to your horses, slap the ass of the old horse, off you go. There comes off the wall from the bank. He ripped off the wall off the bank, and boom, there you go. Now you're stealing loot. Now you're biting down on gold coins just to ensure that it is gold. And sure, did you chip a couple of teeth? Of course. Was it worth it for you to be able to detect whether or not this gold was real? Yes. And your family eventually settled down somewhere and bought a bunch of land, and who knows? It was a good time. But that's the thing. If you wanted to rob a bank, you had to go from the outside. Now, if you want to rob a bank, it's a different game. You gotta hand in. You gotta trade in your bandana. You gotta trade in your fucking assless chaps for a suit and a tie, and then you got to put in 5, 10, 15 years depending on your connects and your willingness to climb this looped up ladder. And you climb a ladder, it's looped up, you climb up the ladder up until you try to get as close to final boss level. You don't want to become final boss, because if shit hits the fan, ideally you like to make a swift exit and be like, I don't even know what's going on here. I just happened to sell all my stock several weeks before all this happened. How could this happen? Is what you'll say. Shocked. Really. And the point is, fam, that's the way. So before, robbing a bank, outside. Now you want to rob a bank, it's got to be an inside job. You got to look the part. You got to get executive. You got to be chief of finance. You got to be fucking chiefing. You got to be financing. You got to be queefing, chiefing, financing, fiscally, chiefing, fisting, financing, snorting, licking, up night, fucking late nights, all the way to 3 a.m. Maybe a couple of espresso shots. Let's get a couple of hookers. Fucking sell, buy. Take the money that people invest in the bank, deposits, and then invest those into other stuff like funds, mutual funds, mutually between yourselves, not the people outside. And then we'll see. Maybe we'll invest a little bit of in the stock market, mutual funds, maybe a little bit of in real estate. And obviously, we want everybody to win. But sometimes the market is emotional. God damn it, every few years. And that's the thing, is trying to predict when the market is being emotional and not emotional. Very difficult. All right? It's not like if you're a lady, you can track your days where you're just like, I'm bleeding from my vag. I can track this, or I can tell when I'm going to be ovulating and producing a lot. It's not easily tracked, but the market is emotional. That being said, be careful with your money. And at the end of the day, but I don't want you to panic. I don't want, because this isn't, we've put contingency plans, and because we learned from the past. But you're like, if we did, how did this happen again? It's incremental learning. I didn't say we learned the whole lesson, but we are learning, fam. And this time it's not as bad. Could it have been as bad? Maybe. Or is it just the start? Could it be way worse? What if everybody went panic mode and just emptied out all their cash out of all their bank accounts worldwide? That was a question that I had to myself. I'm like, what would happen if everybody simultaneously on the same day, hypothetically speaking, of course, just for shits and giggles, were to go to their banks, take out all their money, everything, all the last dime? You're like, well, the banks don't have all the money. to give all the deposits. I'm like, where's the monies then? You're like, it's in there, it's in the system, like it's in there. You're like, is it at the bank? Probably not. Like you can only probably take out a whole, there's only a limited amount of money they hold in the banks. That's that's why it's not worth robbing a bank anymore. That being said, you're like, where's all the money? It's somewhere. Like digitally, it's there. Like if somebody were like, how much do I have in my bank account? You're walking up to a teller, she'll type in your name, last name, whatevs with the old, give me your card, let me see your bank card name, all that shit comes up. There, the monitor says you have X amount in your bank account, but should it be a lump sum and you want to take it all out? Well, we're gonna have to have a little chat. How do you want to even take out this money? Let me get a manager here for a second, Mr. Smith, before you take out all this money. Why would you? And you're like, it's just give me my money. I just like to I like to hold my money myself, please and thank you. You're like, no, let me bring a manager, because we can't just give out a whole bunch of money. Because then, but what if everybody did that though? That'd be an interesting little experiment, little thought experiment. If everybody, yeah. So technically speaking, the lesson that was learned here is that this is, it breaks my heart a little bit, because it's here's the thing. Before I tell you, it slightly just works on the old strings of the old heart. I'll tell you another story, which is kind of, it coincides with this particular story as well. So Ford automobile industry manufacturing company, they build beautiful cars, American cars, beautiful cars, but now they've worked on this patent, and it'll be probably used later on down the line in the next few years, maybe. I'm not sure when it might get rolled out, but the technology is there, the patent is there, and essentially if you miss a payment, your future car will be self-driving itself to some sort of repossession lot. Basically, it's going to be self-repossessing, or at least it'll have the capability. And it's a little bit, here's the thing, fam. Back in the day, there was something a little bit, if somebody was coming short on a payment, if somebody came in with a light envelope at the end of the month, there was a fellow that paid you a visit. Maybe his name was Frankie Four Fingers maybe was his name. He'd show up and he'd have a little chat. Obviously, Frank doesn't like all of the aspects of his job, but he is a professional, and he is dedicated to his craft and really being good at his job. He takes pride in his job, but he doesn't always like all the aspects. But he'd show up and he'd give you a little bit of a reminder as to why you should be making your payments. Just a little. He'd work he'd just work the upper body a little bit, just work the midsection. He was professional. He wouldn't leave any marks or anything, but just a swift little reminder as to why you should be paying your payments on time. Frank was a family man. He had his own personal family, but the family came first, if you catch my drift. And he was a family man. Frank was a good man. Frankie Four Fingers. And he'd work your midsection, he'd work your body, maybe soften up those kneecaps a little bit, just as a light reminder as to why you should not make a payment. And although those things are not, my favorite aspects of life, I'm not a fan of, whatevs, but at the end of the day, it was personal. There was something there. There was a personal connection. Frank knew your name. Frank had your number. You weren't just you weren't just lost in the matrix. You weren't just some sort of barcode. Frank knew you. Frank knew where you lived. Frank knew your entire family history. After roughing you up a little bit, just the boys being boys, he might even pay you a visit to the hospital. Maybe bring a couple extra hookers. I don't know. Frank is a wild boy, but at the end of the day, you can sit back 3 months down the line at the local deli, and everybody can just have a good time reminiscing of the not so distant past, and also looking forward to the future ventures that we're all going to be getting in. So that was the old time. There was something there. There was a little bit more personal, and it was just like, you wanted to have your payments, or you wanted to repossess something. There was a little bit of a human connection there, which made it all more. There was something, you're dealing with a human. It was nice. But now the kneecaps have been far removed from physical life, where you can get access to that emotional connection. You miss a payment, all of a sudden the car turns into Frank. The car is turning up the music really loudly just to be annoying. pressing that brake every once in a while when it's a little bit safe, just to remind you, hey, pay your, and then you hit your head on the steering wheel. Now you're bleeding from your nose, and you're like, man, Frank had class. Frank had personality. Frank was, you could talk to Frank. And now all of a sudden you got the car just like, you arrive at your destination, the door's not opening, or it's opening and closing and closing and opening. Your windows are going up and down. It's just trying to piss you off. So you go back and make your payment. And at the end of the day, if you don't make those payments, the car will be repossessed or self-driving to the repossession center, which again, Frank would have gladly done that as well. But there was, again, the whole human element is missing. So with that being said, I'm a little bit, I guess, what was I talking about in terms of the initial story before this particular one? A little bit heartbroken, I guess, because of the human element has been removed, is what it is. And the kneecaps have been, it used to be a physical kneecap that got a little bit softened up or removed or just, dislocated. Now the kneecap is your digital identity or your physical identity, which is mainly really digital. It's all like, what happens if the power grid goes out? What happens if we have some sort of failure due to a power grid failure, or like, friggin' asteroids go flying by, and next thing you know, power grid is out and everything is just on the lines and you don't have access to your cash. Let's say the power grid did go out nationwide, globally, would cash even be of assistance? Who knows? These are all the questions that I'm thinking about whilst imagining myself trekking down, searching, going after the sunset to see where the sunset leads me to. And again, it's that the sunset for me is this way. The sun always sets in the west, I'll tell you that. But I do, and it's the destination of we're heading south is what I'm telling myself, and I've been telling myself, working on it little by little. There's definitely some things that need to be ironed out on my end, but at the same rate, I'm watching survivalist shows, I'm watching the banks, and I feel I'm not panicked. Why would I be panicked? First of all, I don't have too much money, and I didn't have any money in the SVB financial institution, but could this happen to my bank? Don't panic. Yes. Could this happen to your bank? Do not panic. Yes. Most likely everything will work out at the end of the day, because if need be, we'll bail it out. We'll bail this out, we'll bail that out. And at the end of the day, it's just monies that gets printed or just like asks for. Like I can just be like, yo, let's go wild. Let's go 900 billion. If I'm like, let's just make up numbers and like give it to different funds, because we can. Like, an institution like will come in and be like, man, we need $900 billion, 800 and change roughly, $900 billion for the military budget. And out of that 900, roughly 850 million will be to the Pentagon. And who knows what happens with that money. And I'm just like, what is the overall student debt in the US? I believe 1.7 trillion or something. And I looked up, how many billions are in a trillion. And just to remind myself, and there's 1,000 billion in a trillion. So, 2 years worth of budgets, I believe, if you spend that money on student debt relief, in 2 years you could wipe it out if we had a budget, if we had a made up budget. But we don't. But I'm just saying, what are budgets? What are monies? What are all these number games? Because at the end of the day, there's the things that you physically hold on to, like a gold nugget, that if all goes horribly wrong, you could melt and literally do nothing with it, but you can at least chuck it at someone. If someone's coming at you and it's fucking like, they got the next whatever virus is out there, you just chuck it right in between their eyes, and it's giving you at least like a good minute and a half, 2 minutes head start for you to make a run for it. But that's neither here or there. I don't even know what I'm talking about in terms of fiscally. Stay strong. Now that the markets are feeling vulnerable, and people are asking questions, are we entering a recession? Are we in a recession? Have we always been in a recession? Do we really get out of a recession? Are these the leading steps to the repeating of the old 1930s style depression? Because we've had recession was in 2008. Some say we kind of sort of came out of it, and if it continues this way, it might just be like everything might be fine. But at the same rate, I just want to remind you that the markets are emotional, and in times of the markets being emotional, you want to invest in yourself. and your family and your loved ones. I love you, boys and girls, ladies and gents. Thank you for joining me once again. Where can you find these fantastic, lovely videos? Every week we are here Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Where can you find these videos? Follow me on Instagram. If you search Rob Sadri or Gladyamadeit on YouTube, you get the full-length videos. If you subscribe, it helps your boy out. I hope that I bring a little bit of laughter into your lives. I hope that we get to cover different topics and just learn and grow together. And most of the times, again, I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. Just shoot from the air. Just shoot, pew, pew, right there. Just having fun with it. And I'm trying to grow and take this operation elsewhere, as maybe down the lines in the near future. And you're like, man, I really like this plan. I like your attitude. I like where your head's at. I like where your heart's at. I like where your fart's at. And I'm like sees, likewise. I fucking feel ya. Thank you for the support. You're like, how can I give back? Just the viewership is highly appreciated. But if you're the type of fella or lady that gets involved fiscally, and you're like, how do I invest in something that is personal? Nothing is more personal than this. There's other stuff that's more personal too, or at least the same level of personal. Well, you can go to patreon.com/RobSadgers, where you can fiscally help support the show and see it grow, move, expand, become a large global conglomerate. While I will have, down the line, my tentacles will be fucking in every little jar, in every little pot. At this instant, we are we're starting grassroots. We're walking, we're talking, we're having fun. And it's very small. Spread the word, talk about it. I hope that you guys enjoy the show. There's plenty for you to watch, and there's going to be plenty more in the future as well. I'll be back here again on Wednesday. Have yourselves a wonderful start to the week. And again, remember, do not panic. Your money is not going to say it's not safe, but it's not overall the system, the banks will be preserved, because that's it's really hard for the banks to not be preserved. But anyways, we'll have fun. We'll shoot the shit again on Wednesday. Have a great week, and I'll see you guys very soon. Peace out.